A week ago, I planted this field and I talked about Eagle soybeans and how drought resistant they are and browse resistant they are. Well, the first part of that is very true. We've had no rain since then and the eagles are popping up and looking really good out here. But something very alarming, and I didn't think this was gonna happen, I got tons of deer tracks out here and I was hoping they would leave it alone because it's plowed ground and tilled ground and there's nothing for them to eat here. But I guess they're used to having things to eat here, so they're coming back to check it out. So today we're gonna try and protect this field with a cheap anti-deer fence. I don't know if it'll work, but I gotta do something. So these young soybeans are at a very vulnerable stage right now. You can actually get that nipped off and it'll grow again, but it's better if you give them about 4 weeks or so to get a head start on the deer. I'll explain as I go here, but the first thing I did this morning was grab the Kubota and go around to a couple piles of old T-posts we had. And then I put them down the row here, 2 at a time. And the idea is that we want to fool the deer in 2 ways. One, we want to mess with their eyes a little bit, so we're going to have a fence or a visual barrier that's 3 feet wide, and we'll talk about that later. Then also, we want to mess with their nose a little bit, so we're going to be putting out some ivory soap and some other things that will associate this field with humans. And again, it's all an attempt just to keep them out for a little while. Everything in life is a trade-off, and we don't have a ton of resources to protect this field. We did look into the Gallagher deer fence and also the Premier One 3D deer fence. And the Gallagher deer fence is $1,650, and that would have been a quick and easy fence to put up here. And it comes with a solar electrical fence charger. Ideally, that would be the perfect fence to use in this scenario, would be a Gallagher fence with the fiberglass post and the solar electrical fence charger. But I was talking to Miss Piney Grove this morning about buying that for $1,650, and she said, didn't you plant the soybeans for the deer? And I said, yeah, but the soybeans need to grow a little bit more, and then the deer can come in and the soybeans will be able to keep growing to keep up with them. And she said, do what you want, but that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And after further thought, I agree with her. So that's why we're doing it this way. So there's been studies out on how to deter deer from a field, and one is to put a really high fence, like 6 feet or better, although some deer will try to jump a 6-foot fence. But a better idea, or one that's less expensive, is to have like a 4-foot fence or a 5-foot fence, and then 3 feet away from it, a lower fence. And it messes with, I guess, their eyesight and their ability to judge distance. And they think, even though they can do it, that they can't clear a low fence and a high fence that's 3 foot apart. So that's what we're gonna try and mimic here today. I honestly don't know if this is gonna work. I'm highly skeptical, but be sure to check out our Facebook page because we'll be posting more recent updates there with pictures and short videos. Shockingly had enough spare T-posts to go all the way around this field. I hate that I'm running over a few soybeans, but hopefully the sacrifice is worth it. Well, let me show you what we're gonna use for deterrent. And I got some milk jugs we're gonna hang, got some wire, got a couple solar lights. I'm not sure if I'll put them up or not. Some ivory soap back there. Kind of as an afterthought, I grabbed some of these to tie onto the wire as a scent deterrent. So like I opened with the video, this is gonna be a low-cost deer fence, and it also may be a low-cost, ineffective deer fence. We'll see. I had to change in something a little bit more comfortable to wick some of the sweat away. So I think what I'm gonna do first is drive these posts with the manual driver just to see if I can get them in deep enough and quickly do it that way. If not, I'll just set them with the manual driver and then come by with the tractor bucket and push them in, or use my 2-stroke fence driver to push them in. Yeah, we're gonna use a mechanical way to push them in. I'll be wore out if I try to do all these manually. So we're about 3 feet away from that one. That'll bring the second fence here and also set it down there. We recently had a short go viral where we were pushing these in with the tractor bucket, and several of the comments from the he-men out there was, just go ahead and whack it a few more times and the post will be in instead of getting on and off the tractor. I ain't got that in me, man. It just stops. And that hard, dry clay down there, I could probably pound it the rest of the way in, but then I'd be wore out and useless later on down the field. I guess this will seem silly to some people, spending money and time to plant a field for deer and then spend money and time trying to keep the deer out of it. It's all part of owning land, and we do want to help the wildlife out here, help them to flourish. We just want them to do it when we tell them we're ready for them to do it. Another thing we're gonna do is put in exclusion cages, and what they are just metal cages that the deer won't be able to eat the soybeans inside of, and we'll be able to see the difference between the height of a soybean that deer don't eat versus the ones that they nip on. That's what it looks like so far. Okay, that's one side done. There's 3 more sides to this field. And then I gotta go back and pound them all the way in so they stay up. Maybe I should have just left the field in the clover that it was this spring, like I normally do. You ever buy an expensive tool? You kind of think about it. Takes you a while to buy it, and then once you buy it, you're like, it's one of the greatest things I've ever bought. That's what this thing is for us out here on the farm. We'll leave a link down below for it, but it just is a shoulder and a back saver. I had to take a break from putting in those posts or else I'd never last through this whole field. So what I did was put the high string on the interior post and the low string on the exterior post. And we'll sight down here down the center and show you how this is supposed to work. So there's more to do here, but the idea is that a deer will come up here and they know they can clear this, but then they see that other one, and although they could jump this completely, they think about it and they think, well, there's gotta be an easier way to get into this fence. Now, if this was electrified, and this is not, that's some wire that has no electricity in it, and this is simply twine, then they might come up and touch this and then feel that shock and then never come back again. But in addition to this visual deterrent, which is multi-dimensional or multi-height, I guess, we're also gonna put some milk jugs up here to rattle around, and then I'm gonna cut bars of soap into little slivers and tie it up here on down the line to the post, and also maybe right to the string. And then of course, some of those disinfectant wipes as well. While I'm taking a break, I'll go ahead and prepare this soap. I can already smell it like immensely, not just a little bit. Very, very strong soap, which is why we use it. We've used it before for deer deterrent. I'll say it's got, limited effectiveness, but it's just another, tool in your toolbox besides all the other things we're doing. Probably drill a hole in it and put a string through it. Save these shavings too. I'll spread them out here on the road. I got 4 pieces out of that one. I probably should only do 3 pieces. Soap is probably 10 years old or more from the last time that I bought a bunch of this soap for a soybean field. All right, let's see if I can drill it without it breaking apart. Nope. These are the last 2 T-posts that I have to put in, and I got tired of using that manual driver. So now I just lean the post up against the ladder and I use the power driver. It works out pretty good, and it saves some of my energy. Now string wire and put up the other deterrents. Get this thing done. I ran out of white wire back there on that corner, so I'm doing the rest of it in black wire. I'd rather have white wire, it's easier to see, but I'm gonna put a lot of that orange tape on it, so that's gonna help. I've got all the strings up all the way around, the 18-inch one and the 48-inch one, and now I'm just taking those pieces of soap that I cut earlier and put holes in. Now I'm just tying them to the external stake. Found out that the twine that I'm using, it may not last. It's actually when it rubs against those rusty T-posts, it actually broke. So I was being real careful with it. I've got wire in some places on the lower line, but a lot of it is this twine, and not sure how long it's gonna hold up. I've gone all the way around and put a milk jug in between the posts. I actually was 1 milk jug short, whereas for the soap, I actually had 1 for every post. But I've got that all the way around, and now I'm gonna put some flagging up, and then I'm pretty much done as far as the fence. But have you guys ever started something, project like this, and thought, man, I'm gonna be done in an hour or 2? I don't know where I'm at. I'm thinking I'm 4 hours in. I still got some work to do. Everything just takes longer than you think it will take. And Miss Piney Grove can attest to that. I'm all the time saying, oh, this will just take a little while, and then basically the whole day later, we're still out here. This is just survey tape, orange flagging. It's just to remind the deer that there's a line here, especially since it's black wire. I think I mentioned earlier in the video that I've grown Eagle soybeans before. And another thing that we did to keep the deer out for a little while was we used a product called Milorganite. Milorganite is basically human poo that's turned into fertilizer. I'm not making that up. You can look that up. They sell it at Lowe's and Home Depot. And because it has some nitrogen and some other mineral qualities to it, it actually will help your field. The deer can smell the human aspect of it, and that'll keep them out for a little while. It's actually not only marketed as a fertilizer, but also a deer deterrent. And another thing people use is human hair. They go to the barber and they get bags of hair and use hair, sprinkle it around, have it in like little bags hanging from posts, and that'll deter the deer. This one time we were putting in post and we had a bunch of like event t-shirts that were free. My friend had them. They were all too small. So we're wearing these ultra tight t-shirts so that we could sweat them up. We got them all wet and sweaty, and then we tied them to the post. And now that I've done all this work here on this fence, I'm really thinking about investing in that electric Gallagher fence or something. Put in some wooden posts out here on the corner, put some insulators on them so that they're always there, and then you can move the line post however you want. Another thing I'm gonna do if I don't get rained on is move this trail cam. It's set on video, but I'm gonna put it in that corner because that's where the deer like to come in, and maybe we can capture what they do when they come up to the fence. I've literally been at this for 5 hours. I'm gonna put the camera right here because I think most of the deer come out of that corner. That is the least disturbed place on the property. So the hope is this camera only catches deer on the outside of the fence. We'll do a follow-up video for sure if the bean field really takes off and looks good. Coastal Seeds provided us the seeds for this field, so I told them I'd do some progress videos as well as the planting video. All right, guys, I put out 3 of these exclusion cages, and they're simply just a circular piece of wire or a piece of fence wire in a circle. And normally I would stop them down with some wooden stakes, but I don't have any wooden stakes and I'm too tired to go cut some. But that's gonna do it for today's video. I'll put a couple links up here to when we plowed and disced this field and planted it. But until the next one, remember, life's short, tractor hard. PG out.